everyone. You are listening to another episode of the Colleague Down the Hall podcast. I'm your host, Jeanene Wolfe, and today I'm joined by Michelle Risser. Michelle is a therapist in private practice and a multi-passionate entrepreneur. She believes that diversified income streams are the key to more impact and less burnout for mental health professionals. Michelle is passionate about helping therapists step into their expertise as approved CEU providers so that they can have more income and more impact. So today we're going to talk about that exactly, what you can do with your expertise and your knowledge as a therapist to have some of these additional income streams. Welcome, Michelle.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So why don't we just start with you telling us how you got started with this to begin with?
Absolutely. Well, let's go all the way back. So my very first job as a social worker, 2003, I worked in the field of HIV and AIDS, and I worked for an agency as a case manager. And we had opportunities to go and teach at other agencies if we wanted to. The agency I worked for was already an approved CEU provider. So if we wanted to, we could go teach, like I taught on HIV 101. I taught on substance abuse, just different little trainings throughout the community. So I kind of got used to it and got a taste for it then. From the very beginning. Then when I went into private practice, I got some opportunities to go and speak at some larger conferences, including an international addiction studies conference. But that was still me applying to be a speaker. You know, it was a conference that already had their CEUs all set up, and I would apply to be a speaker and I would go and present. So I gained a lot of confidence as far as speaking and teaching.
Well, I can imagine, yeah.
Yeah, but in terms of becoming a CEU provider myself, that actually happened during COVID. I was looking for additional income streams. I was in a program to start offering more coaching and consulting. I was trying to build that up, but any of you who have done this know that that builds slowly. It takes a long time to build a coaching practice or a consulting business. So in the meantime, I thought, well, I'm going to become a CEU provider myself because here we are. You know, it's COVID and I can offer these online. So I got some courses approved through my state and I was able to do those right away. As soon as they were approved, I could schedule it. What I really like to do is schedule it live, do it live, keep the recording, and then make that into modules to put on demand. And I was able to do all that. And while I'm over here trying to build my coaching and consulting business, I'm also offering my CE trainings. And that's the thing that people want to know about. That's the thing that people start reaching out to me about is how do I do that? This paperwork is overwhelming. You know, how do you get approved? So I was like, okay, maybe I'll offer some consultation around that. And it really took off, not only my own CEs, but helping people with theirs. So I continue to follow that passion and learn as much as I could about it. I actually study these applications. I stay on top of the latest changes. And because I strongly believe that paperwork should not be the thing that stops you from sharing your expertise. It's just paperwork.
Great point. Great point.
It's complicated paperwork, but paperwork still.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and it's just grown over time.
Yeah, that's so wonderful. And I know for myself as a therapist, we take for granted that we're experts in the thing that is our primary demographic or population, and we don't give ourselves credit. And it was through talking to other therapists who were doing things like that I was like, okay, there are some things I'm an expert in that I can teach and talk about. And that could be a huge aha moment for therapists who just don't recognize what they're doing and how powerful it is and the applications for other avenues.
Absolutely. I strongly believe that every single one of us is an expert in our own unique area. And I help the people that I work with discover their expertise. I use the acronym KEEP, KEEP. And your unique expertise is made up of your knowledge, your education, your experience, which includes your life experience, not just your work experience, and also your passion. So it's the thing that you know about. Yeah, thing you know about, the thing you're educated about. With CEUs, just being passionate isn't quite enough. You do have to be able to show that you're qualified. You know, and that's where imposter syndrome could really be something legit, I guess, to look at is let's say you want to go teach a CEU on something you've never studied. Like that's not what you want to do. You want to teach about something that you know well enough that you could teach about it right now for 30 minutes with no preparation. Okay. So something that you do have knowledge of, experience with and you're passionate about. That's your area of expertise.
So going back to the paperwork, what type of information do they typically require to demonstrate that in these applications?
That's a great question because a lot of people think you have to show that you have experience as a speaker presenter. That's not it at all. Your resume needs to reflect that you do have experience in the topic that you're teaching about. So say, for example, you want to teach about perinatal mental health, your resume better say something about perinatal mental health. And people are like, oh no, I don't have anything. Your clinical experience is enough. Make sure you put, when you put your therapy practice, that you put, I provide perinatal mental health counseling. Make sure that you put any specific training that you've had in that topic on your resume. And I do suggest kind of tweaking your resume a little bit. That's something we all do when we have a job. You want to really highlight the things that are relevant to that particular thing. So that's what they're looking for. They're not looking for, do you have a certification? Or do you have an enormous amount of training in this? They just want to look at, are you qualified to teach what you're teaching about? Do you know what you're talking about? And usually clinical experience, trainings. If you have taught on it before, you can put that on there, but it's not necessary.
Okay. But yeah, that's wonderful. So can you give me an idea of the types of topics that you've helped others with to get approvals?
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, so many. I'm always just blown away by how creative people are with their topic. So let me think. Sibling loss, infant loss, EMDR, advanced topics. One of the people in my Therapist Educators Mastermind membership is an EMDRIA provider. So she provides advanced EMDR trainings. I love to teach about anything relating to burnout, compassion, fatigue, secondary trauma. Those can get tricky though, because to make it into a CE, you have to put a little twist on it so that it benefits the client. Can't just be like self-care for therapists. But I love kind of making those little tweaks to take an idea and turn it into a great CEU. Yes, let me think. A lot of perinatal mental health, menopause is a really popular topic right now. Those are the ones that are coming to mind right away. I know I'll think of more.
Yeah. So basically, someone doesn't have to have it all written, packaged up, ready to go to reach out to you. They can reach out to you and brainstorm with you and figure out what they can truly show expertise in. Do you also then assist them in what that's going to look like, the product, what the product is going to look like in the marketing around that?
Absolutely. That's something that I'm starting to offer more because I love marketing. One of the things I've discovered through my own process is I really love business and marketing and even digital marketing. So I am currently in the Google Digital Marketing Certification course to learn as much as I can about that, marketing through SEO and social media. And so it's definitely something that I do help with is marketing. That's where a lot of people get stuck. It's like, oh, I have this wonderful course. Now, oh, I have to sell it. And it's like, well, yeah. You have to sell it.
Yeah. And most therapists consider marketing a dirty word anyway. So.
I know. I think of it as, it's how are people going to learn from you if they don't know you exist? Marketing is just letting them know you exist. That's all it is.
Yeah. And letting go of that idea of you're not sleazy marketing. You're doing it with integrity.
Exactly.
You're providing information to people. They can choose to go with it or not. There's no coercion. It can be done in a supportive way so that people can find you.
Absolutely. At the same time. So all of that is true. The opposite side of the coin, and this is the part that I just find fascinating, is you still do have to make it sound appealing, though. Sure. You can't just create a boring CEU with a boring title and expect it to sell like hotcakes. You need to be able to put a little bit of a spin on it as far as your title and your description, but that's not sleazy marketing. That's just simply describing it in a way that's going to make people feel excited about it. And make them want to sign up. You can't help them. You can't teach them this thing that that other therapists are then going to take to their client and help countless people. You can't provide that if they don't sign up for your thing. So you do have to sell it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. How did they get started with you as far as like, at what point does the paperwork come in? Do you start at probably different places with different people, but what is a typical journey with you?
Yeah, I have a lot of different ways that I work with people. So I have my $47 a month membership called the Therapist Educators Academy. And when people come in there, I meet them wherever they are. in the process. And we usually start with choosing which organization they're going to apply to. And a lot of people think that's strange, like when we pick my topic first, but I like to pick the organization first because the organization often will have rules around which topics they allow. I don't want you to completely have your heart set on, I want to teach about alternative and holistic therapies and be a provider for ASWB. And then I have to be the one to say ASWB doesn't cover that, you know? So I have them look at the organization and look at their topic. And then I just guide them through step by step. I have my self-paced course that does the same thing, but in the master or in the academy, we have live support. And I'm right there with you providing Q&As and co-working. And we just go through it step by step.
Mm-hmm.
And even though different applications look slightly different, they do all have certain things in common. Like they're all going to need a title, a description, objectives, a timed outline. And we just go through and we put that together. And as we're doing that, we're also building out the course itself, making sure that it's really engaging. And yes, we're working on marketing. There's also a decision that needs to be made, whether it's going to be a live or an on-demand. And people have different thoughts about that. And either one is perfectly fine. So yeah, we do all of that. So my group program is the academy, but then I also work with people one-on-one. And you can work with me by the hour, by the day, or by the project. So by the hour is a laser focus. Let's roll up our sleeves. Let's dig into this application. Let's get all your questions answered. And then by the day is a VIP day, which is where I block the schedule for the entire day. And I help you get your CEU application done and everything ready. Or by the project would be more someone who, if you want to host a huge conference and you want me to just handle the CEs for you, I can do that.
Okay.
Yeah. So I've got lots of different offers at lots of different levels. And part of me feels like I should really streamline that because that is a lot of different offers, but people need different things. So
Yeah. And I think most of us prefer seeing that there are options to meet us where we're at instead of there's only this one thing and it's really, really expensive and I'm not in a place yet to be able to afford that, but there's other ways I can get started.
Exactly. Yeah. And my hourly rate is $197, which I feel is very affordable. If you've ever been in the coaching space, that is not high.
That's very affordable.
It is. So I have that. And I also offer for anybody who's not sure how I can help, or if you really just have a few quick questions, I offer a 30-minute free consultation. So anybody who's listening, don't hesitate to book that and we can chat.
Okay, great. So I think back to starting my membership and then creating courses. And I'm a person who loves technology, but I don't have the expertise to figure out what technology, what platforms I need. I really needed someone to say, okay, you're new to this. This one is probably affordable. It's great. You can use this for now. And later you might want to step up to these other things. And I had a great coach at the time who worked with that. So I imagine you are helping them with that as well.
Absolutely. And people use different things. But the one that I do have one that I recommend if you're starting out on demand, I recommend the lowest tier of Teachable, because it does everything that you need. Plus, I can help you set up your automated certificates and post tests and all that through Google Forms. So even though that lowest tier of Teachable doesn't have all those automations, I can help you set those up for free. And I just really like how it looks. I just think it's very intuitive and user-friendly, but people also use Thinkific. And my coaching and consulting business is on Kartra, which is anything but simple and user-friendly. I would not start there.
Yeah.
I would not start with a Kartra or a Kajabi, or that will explode your brain. When you want to grow your giant empire, then you do that. For now, just grab a course platform like Teachable or Thinkific. For live, I'm a big fan of just super duper simple. If it's in person, paper, printed, sign-in sheets. If it's on demand or if it's live online, Zoom, just good old Zoom and an email.
Yeah. Okay. So when I still struggle with this pricing, I imagine you help with that too. And I wonder if it's based on the topic, where your primary demographic is. How do you guide people around that?
Absolutely. It's based on all those things, where you are, what you're teaching about. If you're teaching about something really advanced with a certification attached, you can charge more. I kind of set my starting rate by looking at the average of what CEs cost that I see in my area. Also, what works for me, what feels good to me. I want it to feel accessible, because these are CEs and a lot of therapists are out there looking for free or dirt cheap CEs, but we all know that the free and dirt cheap CEs really suck. They're
Yeah, me too.
like, you also want a good training. You don't want to just take a post test out of a magazine and say you did it.
Yeah.
That's what you get for free and cheap a lot of times. If there are very generous, wonderful people out there providing your CE for free, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about the cheapos, me personally. So I always put a giant disclaimer on this because this is just me. I'm in Columbus, Ohio. This is my starting point. I charged $20 per hour and then I drop $1 to make it end in 9. So, for instance, a 2-hour CE would be $39. A 3-hour would be $59. That price has worked for me, and I do pretty well selling it at that price. I have some people I tell that, and they're like, "Oh, no, that is so low. I can't do it that low." And I have other people who are like, "Okay, that sounds good. You can even throw a coupon out there and $5 off, and that'll help it move too." That's my starting formula.
Yeah. And the other thing when you're really new to this is understanding that once someone buys from you, if it's a good product, they're likely to buy more from you or join your membership or get some one-on-one coaching with you. So that price point really can just be an entryway to having a relationship with that buyer.
Absolutely. And having someone, we all know we have our favorites that teach CEs. And if you get them on your email list, and you can offer your next upcoming CE, and they'll become like regular members of your audience who follow you and buy from you. So like you said, Jeanene, it's bringing someone into your world who's going to become a loyal customer and students. But also another thing I want people to keep in mind, that a lot of times therapists who haven't done any additional income streams don't realize that when I say $20 an hour and people go, "Oh, but I make $150 in my therapy practice." Okay, but you're not just going to have one person in your course.
Right. Yeah.
It's $20 an hour per person. So if it's a 2-hour CE for $39, you get 10 people in there, which is not a lot and not hard. You just made $390. That's more than I make for 2 hours in my therapy practice. I know it's not for, people in different areas, but to me, it's like, okay, I'm doing something different. I'm doing something fun. And I'm making at least the same money or more, and possibly put it on demand. Like you said, you're adding people into your world and onto your list, and you're establishing your expertise. And it's just so many good things about it. And you're at least making your therapy income, if not more. Right. And you could even say, you could draw a line and say, if I don't get at least 10 people, I'm not going to do it. But I wouldn't recommend that. I would recommend just putting yourself out there and doing it, even if you only have 2 people in your first one.
Right. So when I came into other income streams, you just have no idea. Like at the beginning, I'm like ready to learn all the tech and all the things myself because I don't have income coming in. I've got time. So I'm going to spend the time on that. And then you gradually get to the point where you're like, okay, I can't learn any more tech. I've got to just like hire someone to start doing some of this stuff. And so the same thing that happens is you have to now balance your course creation or the CEs that you're building or the marketing in with your private practice. And I wasn't intentional about that in the beginning. And I realized eventually, like, so, I see 3 clients and I have a block of time. I much prefer to do the new stuff on the course, which is exciting with my ADHD brain, than writing those 3 progress notes. So I was like, okay, I think I need to separate these days out so I can be more aware of the time that I'm spending for each business.
Absolutely. And that's going to look different at different times. I kind of do it by season. Last year, I tried doing every other week. So I really separated it. Week 1 would be just therapy practice. Week 2 would be just coaching, consulting, and courses. And the problem was that I was squeezing too many therapy clients into the therapy week, and I was burning myself out that way, and you always have some overlap. Consulting client has a question during therapy week, and, therapy client has a crisis. And so right now, and I'm not recommending that's for anyone, but right now I'm all mixed up. Because that's just, things are growing for me. I have a lot of consulting calls this week, but also therapy clients. So right now it's a mixed up mess, but eventually I'll get tired of that and I'll say, okay, we need to get it a little more rigid.
Yeah.
But but I just kind of do what works for me at the time.
Yeah. And something I tell therapists all the time is that you can easily adjust your schedule with your
Mhm.
clients. Like I had adjusted my schedule so many times over the years when my kids were little,
Mhm.
when they were in high school and I wanted to be home earlier in the afternoon. There's lots of times, and I remember I would get in my head and I'd be like, oh, I have to tell them that I'm not going to do nights anymore. And I'm
Mhm.
so anxious. And I would worry about it. And the next day I'd tell a client, they'll be like, oh, okay. What other openings do you have? I rarely get pushed
Exactly.
back.
I rarely do either. And I look at my schedule quarterly and I often change it quarterly. And for me, it's just not a big deal. I just let my clients know, hey, here's my upcoming schedule.
Yeah.
One thing that I do though, I know some therapists really struggle with that because they do like weekly appointments and they do only set appointments. I don't do that. I let people schedule as they go. I like the flexibility too.
Mhm.
I have a handful of maybe 3 or 4 people who do have a standing appointment, but that's because that's what they wanted. It's not because I required that. So that makes it easy for me to say, okay, for the summer, my schedule's going to be this because I'm not moving standing appointment.
Yeah, and just recognizing too that even at different times of life, like the summer when
Mhm.
our caseload goes down, then
Mhm.
maybe you want to push some clients into another day and then have that extra day off.
Mhm.
Especially if you have kids, so you can spend time with them. Or for me, just go to the beach.
Absolutely. And my advice would be never, ever, ever work the week between Christmas and New Year's, no matter what your clients tell you.
Yeah.
I figured that out long ago, but broke that rule this year because I went on vacation in early December. So I thought, okay, I want to open up a few slots for people. I had lots of people who said they wanted to come in. I booked about 10 clients the week between Christmas and New Year, and 2 showed up. So it's like, okay, I could have been home with my kid.
Yeah, I years ago started taking the last 2 weeks of the
Mhm.
year off, and so my clients were kinda used to that, but again, I had some time I'd taken some extra time off, and I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna condense it." It was hard this year with the 2, with Christmas and th New Year's being in the middle of the week. So I was
Mhm.
like, "Okay, so I'll see clients on Monday and part of the day Tuesday," and I started in December, and this is what I recommend to people that can't afford to do this. At the very beginning of December, I start talking about it. This is
Mhm.
the session. I'm opening it up for those who need a session. So if you feel like you don't need one, that's fine. We can just cancel. But I'd rather know now if you don't think you're going to need it so I can put someone else in that spot. And I was like, I cannot believe I did this to myself.
I
I
know.
was like, all right, people are canceling. I'm so annoyed. Even if you like package it just right, people just don't anticipate how busy that time of year can be.
Yes.
And
And they
so,
really
yeah.
think they want to come in and oh yeah, I can definitely come in. And they get to it and they're like, "Oh no, why do I have appointments this week?"
Yeah, yeah. Well, I had a couple people who were working anyway that day. And so I was like, okay, well, if you're going to be working anyway, then, they go to their car for lunch break or however they do it, or they work from home. And those were the ones that canceled too. I was like,
Mhm.
did you take off work? I'm trying to get into their mindset. And I was like, that doesn't work because people are too complicated for me to figure that
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, just don't do it. Just don't schedule that week and also don't schedule the week of the 4th of July because it's the exact same thing.
Right. Yeah, and for the members that I work with, we often talk about this is the way you can do this. You need to start putting a portion of your pay aside once a
Mhm.
month or every week to build that fund for yourself, that sick leave, vacation time. Caseload is lower than I thought it was going to be, so you can still
Mhm.
pay yourself. And that can make a huge difference.
And to be able to pay yourself in a way that you're spreading it out over time and not just seeing double the amount of people in a week to make up
Yeah.
for it, because that's what so many of us end up doing. We either stack the week before or the week after, and then it feels like it's almost not worth it to take time off because it's just
Yeah.
awful.
Yeah, for sure.
I love
And
your approach.
also, I also kind of teach about, in the middle of the month, it might be like you're just feeling extra tired. You can just take 1 or 2 days off. You don't have to take the whole thing off,
Mhm.
just prioritize those clients that need to see you. So, yeah.
Mhm. Yeah,
All
love
right.
that.
Well, that's completely off topic. Anyway.
That's hey, no, it's all related. It's all related to how, it's a huge question. I remember thinking this when I was first learning about having other income streams, a second business. I remember asking, like, how in the world do you do this when you have a therapy practice? Because so many of the people who are out there coaching and teaching this stuff, they've left their therapy practices. And I'm like, I'm still to this day, I've had my second business for 5 years and I'm still a therapist. So you do have to be very intentional. Sometimes for me, it means waking up at 5:30 or 6 in the morning so I can get a couple hours of working on that course or writing those emails before I start my day. I really enjoy that. For someone else, it might be carving out a couple hours on a Saturday.
Yeah, so I think the key message here is be strategic about it. Like, look at your needs, look at your clients' needs, look at your other business needs. And, somebody, I think it's Stephanie Feld, that talks about your scheduling Jenga, play scheduling Jenga, and you mark out the time slots and figure out where you want to work and things like that. But just making sure that you understand that you don't have to do it the way someone else is doing it. That's the joy of working for yourself.
That's right. Yes. So you're playing the Jenga, you're strategic about it, but you're also flexible, knowing that, I can change this anytime I want.
Right.
I'm usually booked out, let's say 3 weeks or so. So in a month, I could have a whole new schedule if I wanted to.
Yeah. That's great. I have always done the weekly spots, but I'm beginning to see the appeal of maybe doing that differently. My hesitation is that I see a lot of women who are ADHD, and having that same spot every week is really helpful. So they, can get in that habit. But
I've never had that be a problem. I use a scheduler that sends out automated messages and everything. And and as long as it's on their schedule, it hasn't been a problem. Even with ADHD. The one thing I have not done, though, is people who suggest that you pad on 30 minutes, between, and then you end up with some on the hour, some on the half hour. I don't think I would ever keep that straight.
No.
Mine are all on the hour.
Yeah.
That way, if the client says, I thought I had an 8:30, I'm like, I don't book on the half hour. You didn't have an 8:30.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, this has been a great conversation. I want more therapists to understand that, I think this can give you a nice balance in terms of the burnout that we can experience, but it also can be good for the loneliness because you're going to meet other entrepreneurs. And so take a look at your skill set, take a look at your knowledge base. This is not money while you sleep, like a lot of people like to say. This is work and you have to put the time into it.
But let me just say, though, when you create an on-demand course, yes, it's work to get it running. But once it's up and running, I actually have made money in my sleep. That was the first money I ever made in my sleep, was selling an on-demand course. And I jumped for joy. Like, I made $39 in my sleep after, 15 years of butt and chair. So I just want to put that little caveat. But yes, you're absolutely right. But you can get there.
You can get there, but it's not going to happen right away.
No, it's not.
Well, this has been such a great conversation. As we close out, can you share your favorite catchphrase or analogy? And these are ones that you use with coaching clients, right?
Yes. And I use this sometimes with therapy clients too. But one thing that I say to people all the time is just choose one thing. Choose one thing and start. I know you've got 75 ideas and you're starting all of them, but you never actually get anywhere. Just pick one. Choose one and do that. And then when that is
life advice,
choose the next one.
Yeah, that's great all around life advice too. Well, again, thank you so much for joining me today. For all of you hardworking therapists out there, please remember our work is hard, but it doesn't have to be lonely.